Welcome back to another traffic report here in the intersection where we talk about the culture, the scripture, and everything in between. This week we have an interesting clip from Cam Newton's Funky Friday podcast, and your boy was going in. Your boy was going in.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah. Hey, let's go ahead and roll that clip.
A lot of people see my situation and not think that I'm not high function.
What situation?
Okay, so I'm not married. I have beautiful children.
How many?
8.
By how
8.
many women?
3. And this is the kicker. I want more.
By multiple women? What's the intent?
I
I'm
just
saying,
want
or
God
by
to
your
bring
wife?
them. I just want God to bring them.
Oh, okay.
My desire to get married is lower than my fear of divorce. So, as you had said, Dr. Brian, you said it, I didn't say it, I will agree. I'm just taking my time.
Bruh.
You're not.
Bruh. Eight children, 3 women. I understand things happen. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. And then my man says, but I want more. And I just want God to bring them.
So so all right, okay. This is a judgment-free zone on a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. And my issue is not that it's not the way that I would go, but one of my foundational beliefs and values is that every single individual has infinite dignity, value, and worth.
Right.
Whether they believe like me or not, live like me or not, or even like me.
Agreed.
You hear me say that all the time. You know that's my deal, right? And I know I want to be careful with this because there's some people that might be in his situation. They were young, things happen, they got 8 kids by 3, but that's not the way they live now. They say, man, I realize I want to make some different changes.
Yeah.
I also realized some people in that situation now, more mature, they get married or whatever else, and they want to have kids with this new spouse or whatever.
Yes.
What got me though is when this brother said, "Oh man, I just want God
to bring
them."
Yes.
And then he tries to change this at the end of this first clip, because we're going to show another clip of this, of saying, I'm taking my time. No, I can't use that word on the podcast. Brother, please, what are you taking your time with?
Right.
It seems like you are being part of Scripture. You're being fruitful and multiplying. You're not taking your time with that
not
at all. And so but it's something he said at the beginning, man, that really rubs me raw. When he says, my fear of divorce is higher than my desire for marriage.
Yeah.
And man, look. Okay. A moment of transparency here. So I stayed a virgin until I got married. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people thought that the major driver for that was my faith. Mm-hmm. Tell you something, like that weighed into it, and like I know I'm supposed to do it, but it was just the thing of I should do this because I'm like, as a teenager, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Some might think it was because I was scared to get a STD. Well, I mean, they have protection and stuff for that. Mm-hmm. The driving thing for me was I grew up in an environment where a lot of people close to me had kids at a really early age. Mm-hmm. Really, really early. I mean, some as early as 13 in my family had kids. And so, and when that happened, I the whole dynamic. Because I grew up in a close family where our extended family, cousins or whatever else, we all lived in the same house. And when that happened, when a teenager got pregnant, it affected that teenager's life and the whole family's life in a way, man, it's hard to understand, especially when kids are coming.
Right.
Kids are coming. And when the earning potential in the household is already low because of some other things going on, like I shared, like my mom didn't get her GED till I was in 6th grade. Man, she was working as a grocery store clerk, sometimes taking care of not only her 3 kids, but like multiple cousins and different people living with us and different things of that nature. And so when you're making that low of a wage and you're now trying to take care of all these different people, man, that has a dynamic and it plays a role. And so for me, for a big period of my life, I thought the worst thing I could do was to get a girl pregnant because it would dynamically end all my hopes and dreams that I had for myself at that young age, right? And so part of me taking my time was that even though like I wasn't at in my faith where I'm at now, even though, man, I really wanted some of this physical stuff with girls, my fear of what that would do to my hopes and dreams was larger than my desire for this physical pleasure over here. And therefore, I made some other choices, right? And like I told you before, with alcohol, I got exposed to alcohol a lot earlier than I should have. I probably took my last drink after we lost in the playoffs, high school football playoffs, after my sophomore year of high school. I didn't drink again until I got married at the age of 35. And the reason was because there were some people in my life that had things that I wanted and they didn't drink. Where I looked at a lot of people in my neighborhood where I grew up that drank that didn't have the things that I wanted. And so I made a conscious decision to do the things. I didn't know how else to achieve the things that I wanted in life other than to mimic the people who had those things. In my life, the people who had those things were people who didn't drink. And so I made a decision like this to say, I'm not going to drink. And it wasn't until later I was like, well, I can still achieve some of those things, and some things changed, right? And I can do it in moderation. And I was a lot more mature when I took my next drink at 35 than while I was a underage high school sophomore. I had my fears like Cam had his fears, but I wasn't daggum out here impacting the lives of 8 kids because of my fears.
Right.
She's gonna go into some of this in the clip, and man, this growing up as someone in a broken home, I'm gonna tell you something. There's not enough toys you can buy. There's not enough shoes you can buy to make up for my dad not being in my home. The hole in my heart. I got kids now that have known no other man besides me. They have never met their birth mom, but there's still a hole in their hearts that craves to know them. I've taken them all over the country on trips. I've given them everything I could. I've loved. I've been there, supported. I've coached. And there's still a piece of them that wants their birth parents there. And so to have a guy out here just procreating with no responsibility, with no kind of weight on it, and say he's taking his time to do what? Be responsible?
It's taking his time to do what? Man, I agree 100% with everything you said. And I think there's something I would add is there's this flip side to fear. Our fears can cause us to avoid situations that would be harmful to us. Some fear is good. There's such thing as healthy fear. But I heard you say this around the time I first met you, I first started coming to the church. Something to this effect of, it's a shame when you live your life based on what you don't want to be. our fears can sometimes help us when we don't understand and when we need to make good choices. Like your fear. I also had a healthy fear of, like, I had a fear of being embarrassed, which is why I didn't have sex until I got to a later. I didn't make it all the way to marriage, but that's what held me back. But when your fear is your driver and that fear isn't replaced by better values, you miss a lot. Cam has, because of his fear of marriage, it causes him to miss all of the things that you're saying. Well, I'm so afraid of marriage that I'm gonna move in a way that stops me from getting married. And because my focus is on just not getting married, I'm ignoring all of the people, all of the relationships, all of the families that I'm trouncing on. And I will create whatever reality I need to create to make that okay, because it protects me from my fear. And what happens is, when you get to a place where that fear no longer causes you to make healthy decisions, you'll continue moving in that same path if you haven't replaced it with a better value, because all you're driven by is this one thing, and you're unable to see all of the stuff that's happening around you.
And I want to say this too. The answer is not just getting married to a whole bunch of people. No. That is not, man, hear what I'm saying and not what I'm not saying. I'm not telling you, if you want to have sex, just go out and start getting married and getting all these crazy marriages. No. That's not what I'm saying either, man, because you can beat it and do as much damage being there. And so I'm saying get in healthy relationships. And think about other people, because you know what I also had to reckon with all my childhood is hear my mom talk about what could have been with her and my dad. Yeah. And then to see him out here over here doing this over here, right? And he still not get what he wants out of over here when he has somebody who was really, really down on his team over here.
Right.
And so that, like, my deal is like, man, while Cam is saying this, he wants more, and there's these other 3 women that's involved too. It's the 8 kids, but it's the other 3 women, man, and they're going to suffer some things from this too. And there's going to be some people that say some ignorant stuff like, well, they're getting this check or whatever else. That's ignorance, man. Like, money cannot make up for all those kind of things that come with that when those broken relationships, and you have this kid with this person that you're not with, and you got all these things, and then, and here's the deal. He's gonna say, like, oh yeah, at one point I'm gonna get with somebody that I'm gonna stick with, and then it's like, I'm gonna tell you, man, that's gonna be conflict. When you decide at some point that this one person is worthy, and the kid that you have with them is worthy of your presence all the time, and this lifelong commitment, those other kids are gonna hear, I wasn't worthy of the risk of commitment. And therefore, you continually treated me like a convenience.
I was a commodity. You wanted more. You wanted to collect more children, like Pokemon cards. I want more babies. I want to go out and get more kids, but there's no concern for those actual children's lives.
We got to start having conversations about this, especially in the church, man. I've been hitting on, we got to have men start to stand up and be men.
Yes.
And man, we got to start speaking on, we can't have this, we got to stop having this where this is just okay and something we look over, man. And the other part of this, there's the other part of this where I tell my sisters all the time, I was like, you start dating a dude, look, before you commit to that dude, bring them around community. Let some other people that care about you get to spend some time with him, see what he's about, ask him some questions. You've heard me tell this more than once of how when I started dating Trisha, I set up a breakfast where she went out with some women that I was in biblical community with, and I told her, you can ask any question to these women who spent time around me that you want. And I told them, any question she asks, answer truthfully. And I said, also ask her any question you want also, because I believe that you are for my good. And then I said, I want some time with some men that you have spent time in biblical community with. When I come up to visit you, we dated long distance. And we did that. And then they asked me hard questions. And it was after those sessions that I was more convinced that she was the one for me. That not because everything was perfect in those answers and those interactions, but that she was somebody I was willing to work and commit to working with for the rest of my life, for the rest of the time that we were both alive. That's the difference, right? We didn't want to treat either one of us like a commodity. And man, like, it's a bad thing. That kid, these kids are gonna see this clip.
Yep. One day
They're gonna see this clip.
They're gonna see how their dad thought about them, how much he thought of them. They were a footnote.
He's looking for the family that's worthy enough for him to commit and be there.
And it's not you.
And it was not you. You didn't fit the bill. You didn't fit the bill.
And here's the other thing in there, man. Power of presence. For all my brothers, listen, I know I got some brothers that watch this that may not believe like we do, may not have that faith, or just may not be there yet in their faith. And I know some of my homies, y'all got multiple kids. I want you to understand this. When I was growing up, my dad was in my life till I was 6. I spent the majority of my life after that trying to figure out what it looked like to be a father, because I didn't have that example, because I didn't have one to look at. There's so many situations in my marriage, so many situations in relationships that I just never had a prototype for, because I never saw a healthy relationship in my family. And so I went to mentors, after preachers, after people trying to figure out what this looks like. And now I have a relationship with my dad. And let me tell you how this plays out. My dad I have 4 other siblings. I have 4 other siblings, all older than me. My dad and the only one of my dad's kids that he has a relationship with is me. And he spent 6 years of his life with me. I'm also the only one of his kids that he actually spent a significant amount of time with. Those are the kids, and he's got an uphill battle. And we talk about it. I talk with my siblings some. Some of them don't want anything to do with me. Some of them do. But even the 6 years that I had with my dad set us up to be able to have a relationship now where he's trying to overcome this incredible deficit with all of the rest of them. Like, man, the power of the presence of a father in a home cannot be overstated. And this ain't no right-wing talking point. This ain't no left-wing talking point. This is a humanity thing. This is a humanity talking point. The value of having a father around cannot be understated. Of having a parent around cannot be understated. And the more kids you have, I don't care how much money you make, you can't clone yourself. We ain't there.
But this is what Cam kind of hints at in here, man, is here's the deal. And I don't want people who have gone through divorces to feel bad and have shame and guilt. That's not what I want out of this. And when some things like that happen that's unfortunate, there's a lot of parents that's doing the best they can and co-parenting, and those situations happen. And you know what? God's grace and mercy and love are still on that.
100%.
You don't lose any value in his eyes. And I want to tell you that I don't believe, looking at the scriptures, that's how it was intended. Mm-hmm. Even though there's things that make a way for that to happen, and you lean into that, and you're like, man, we're going to make the best of this. That still shouldn't be our goal.
That's still going to be
because here's the deal. My dad would say, oh, man, yeah, I went on fishing trips with my dad when I was younger. I went on different trips. I did different things with him. And there was still a part of me that was missing some things because he wasn't there on a consistent basis, man. And there's a difference between the weekend and the vacation trip dad and the dad that's there all the time. There's a difference when, man, I got to learn how to tie a tie, and my aunt kind of just teaches me this way until I can figure something out, until I get to ROTC and learn from a sheet of paper. And my dad didn't teach. And then it's like, on this one deal where he tries to teach me how to shake hands, when I'm like, you're a little too late on this, bro, because somebody else has already taught me that, because you're waiting for this weekend in the summer where I come stay with grandma to try to impart these things where it's too late for that now, bro, because if you were in the house, we would have had that. But I know you were working. You were doing the best you could, but you were working these extra hours and different things of this nature. You were over here doing this stuff, right? And
there's still a gap.
There's still a gap, right? Mm-hmm. And so man, it's so hard. And here's the deal: when I became an adult, my relationship with my dad was primarily the way that he treated me as a kid. Man, when I get to you, I get to you. Because that's what I was with you growing up, is when you got to me, you got to me. So now let's not try to flip the script and be like, oh, I gotta be like, we're gonna be best buds. Because we've never had that type of relationship. And I feel like that's where a lot of guys are gonna, man, they're gonna feel it. Is now when their kids get adults, when their kids get older, and when the kids have been a convenience piece or just kind of getting over there on that, man, now that kid is gonna look at their relationship the same way. And it's gonna be hard to process. So I just think, man, this drives a deeper issue. I know me and Brail come at it because we come at it from we've experienced some things, and so undoubtedly that has shaped the way we view some of these different things.
Yep.
And like I said, I know there's some guys that unfortunately, man, some things happen with you and the mom of that kid, and that co-parenting is the best you can do. And I say, brothers, I applaud you.
Yeah.
Moms, I applaud you. Continue to co-parent, continue to love. No shame, no guilt. Continue to love.
Yeah. It's about how you move forward from here.
And as you enter into future relationships, as you prepare to have kids, target to be there.
Yeah.
Target to be committed in the relationship, because that's gonna feed the heart of that kid also.
Yeah. 100%. Man, you guys should watch. We're not going to play the rest of the clip, but you guys can check it out. It's less than a 3-minute clip. We'll post it in the show notes. So make sure you check that out and hear it, because Dr. Bryant gives a really powerful response, but we also had some visceral responses ourselves that we wanted to share. Man, but what do you guys think of this conversation? Let's continue it in the comment section. Let's continue it in our different community spaces. Comment, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week in the intersection.